Hi everyone, my name is Jair.m4a, and today I wanted to do a quick little rundown of what I think, basically my list of Kendrick Lamar's album ranked. So recently, Kendrick Lamar did a interview with some, I don't know who, but it was like, I think it was a pretty prestigious like music news like source review site, I think, and they asked him questions, and I guess one of them was like, what like are your favorite albums? Like, can you rank them? And Kendrick Lamar ended up ranking his albums. I'll try to find a link to that article somewhere to like link it below in the comments. I'm not gonna say his list of like his albums ranked because that's not what I'm making this video for. But what I am making this video for is for my own list, which I wrote down here, and I wrote down reasons as to why I have this in a certain list, in the list that I have it in. So yeah, I hope this this is the first time ever doing something like this. So if I'm not very coherent with what I'm saying, or if like I pause something, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to shoot this out as quick as I can because I don't have very much time. So yeah, okay. So number 5 is, oh, actually I wanted to say that I made this list based off of my own personal opinion and a little bit of popular opinion and logic. So um, I did take into consideration what most people believe, um, or most people would say would be his best albums in order, and I also did take into consideration the technicality, the instrumentation, the lyricism, all of that, in each of his albums, and I think um, I believe that at the end of the day, it's what the listener really thinks about the album. So, um, you guys can tell me that T-Pab was the best album of 2015 or his best album ever, and I will completely disagree with you because that's just, you'll find out why. But yeah, with that being said, this is my list, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So number 5, I'm starting with Untitled Unmastered. The reason being is because, um, not because it wasn't an official album, but more because it was indeed a B-sides album. I know that's kind of, um, I don't know, counterintuitive, I guess. Maybe. Because, I guess, like, that makes sense. Like, oh, you're gonna put his B-sides album, which songs that he didn't choose because he thought they weren't as good as his like worst ranked album. I mean, yeah, like if you think about it, that's exactly why I'm putting it on my like as the lowest on my list because Kendrick Lamar sees that these songs, these compilation of songs that he took from the T-Pab sessions are up to par with what he wanted to portray in 2015 with that album T-Pab as an artist in 2015. So I feel like um, good like good step um, in in on Kendrick's part because if he were to have put these albums, the album To Pimp a Butterfly is long enough as it is, at least in my opinion. And to have 8 more tracks put in there somewhere, I just feel like it would just drag out the album much longer than what it already is. Um, so yeah, it's a B-sides album. Apart from that, the tracks on the just talking about Untitled Unmastered within itself, without the context of T-Pab, the tracks, the album itself, the tracks, they feel really chopped up and sort of they don't really resemble Kendrick Lamar as a as a talented artist. Like, okay, there's some the instrumentation is there. I guess kind of lyricism is there. Sometimes it's a bit childish, in my opinion, with a lot of the things that he's saying. Like, uh, I'm not saying that there's no need for anything he's saying, because with an artist like Kendrick Lamar, there's always something that the artist is saying. An artist like Kendrick Lamar, everything that they're saying has a purpose. A little extra note in a line, a little I don't know, a little line that may not sound very significant, but has a lot of detail to it, and like probably adds like a whole nother part to a story, or maybe a line in a line that is played backwards in a song, which we hear a lot of in Damn. All of that has purpose, and it's not just put there to put to add filler. Um, Kendrick Lamar is just one of those artists who knows what he's doing when he chooses to do it, and I think Untitled Unmastered is a good representative of him, good representative of that. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he wanted that album to have to sound like, and he felt like Untitled Unmastered didn't belong on there, so it's not on there. Yeah. Moving on to number 4, Section 80. Section 80, I really have nothing against this album except for it sounding. At times it kind of sounds like a compilation album, mainly because as you listen to it, you kind of fade in and out of listening to it. It's just like it'll come back, and you'll just like go away. You do put it in the back of your head, but then it'll come back again. Whether it be like a line that stood out or instrumentation that stood out. This really feels like more of like a compilation album of songs that I feel like he just put together and just threw together and just like, hey, this worked good, let's do that. And I mean, that's never good, but with an artist like Kendrick Lamar, like I said, he knows what he's doing, he knows what sounds good, and for him to be doing that, I guess it was sort of lazy in a way to be. I feel like he was just throwing stuff together, but in a way that he knew it would work. But the fact that it felt like he's throwing stuff around, just making things seem like they work, but not really. It kind of shows in the end. It shows that this album isn't up to par with what we'd expect from a Kendrick album, and that's completely okay, because that's his first album. Now we expect a lot more of him after what we got from Good Kid, M.a.a.d City, To Pimp a Butterfly, and even Damn. A lot of good songs that we got from Damn. So that brings me to my next point. I think this album, Section 80, felt more like the blueprint to his entire career thereafter. We definitely hear a lot of vibes of Good Kid, M.a.a.d City, a little bit of To Pimp a Butterfly on Section 80. We hear that blueprint. We can hear it, and we can connect the dots between those albums, between Section 80 and between Good Kid, M.a.a.d City. We can see where he was going, where he was transitioning, and I think Good Kid, M.a.a.d City as a debut album, although I don't feel like although I do feel like it could have been a little bit better, I think it was a perfect blueprint of an album to what would come next. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about that. Third, To Pimp a Butterfly. This is where my personal opinion starts coming into play, because at this moment in time, To Pimp a Butterfly is probably my least favorite album by Kendrick Lamar, But the reason I'm rating it as third is because, like I said, I'm not just basing this off of my own opinion. I'm basing it off of popular opinion and logic. I think that, um, in terms of logic and popular opinion, many people say that this is his best album because it's politically charged. It talks about racial issues. There's a lot of wordplay involved, instrumentation. You can go on and on and on and on and on about why this album is his best album, and you just will not convince me. I don't feel any of that there. This album does not feel like he's telling a story, although he is. The entire album, he's telling a story, and it's not just what he's saying on top. There's so many underlying things that he's talking about, that he's rapping about, that he's rhyming about, and I don't feel like I should be the one to be or a one to be listening to what he has to say. Um, with that, I think I'm obligated to say that politics and music is just not my thing. Um, I used to be. I used to like politically charged music, in the past, like Rise Against, for example. But I feel like as time goes on, especially with Kendrick Lamar, and especially now, I feel like To Pimp a Butterfly kind of aged a little bit badly in the time, if it's of its release in 2015, the like very early 2015, if I remember correctly, until now. I feel like it aged really badly because 2015 was sort of like the precursor to the whole Black Lives Matter movement in of like 2016. And that's not to say that it wasn't happening already when To Pimp a Butterfly was released, but I think 2016 was really when that whole movement really like took its turn with like the like massive shootings, like massive police brutality that happened of the summer of 2016. Um, to Pimp a Butterfly, I feel like was, um, released just in time for these events. People were experiencing this and they were coming back to this album realizing that everything that Kendrick Lamar was pretty relatable to what was happening a year and a half later. So it's just like I feel like maybe uh, it's like it feels godly to people because it was still relevant a year and a half later. But you have to take into consideration that the problems that he's rapping about in To Pimp a Butterfly isn't going to be always. Although it may not look like that right now. It may look like this is going to happen for the rest of our lives. And it probably will because utopia does not exist. Um, I think people just stop listening at one point in terms of politics. Politics are always changing, even though sometimes we do repeat our own history, which is unfortunate. But I think people's views, are always changing, always evolving. People are always growing into different things, and I feel like To Pimp a Butterfly was just it's just a bad idea to release an album that is politically charged, um, like that. It didn't sit well with me. Not even the instrumentation or a lot of the, vocal styles that Kendrick Lamar was doing. I feel like he was just trying to put on a random show, other than, telling like a story to his listeners. I don't feel like this is a very coherent project at all, but, um, at times I do see, things flow. Like for example, King Kunta. I think that's one of his best songs that he's ever released, and for things like that to sort of shine out, be the diamond in the rough of an album that I feel like is mostly just not there or not the best performance that I know that he could put on. It makes you realize that there are different sections in that album that are pretty good. King Kuta is, I feel like, the epitome of a good song on To Pimp a Butterfly. Not throughout his whole career, but, it shines through, and it makes other little sections that you notice shine through as well. But unfortunately, I just feel like it's bogged down by political opinion that many people might not have in the future. So, yeah, that's the paper butterfly. Oh, and also, there's no real for me because of the examples that I mentioned. I don't really feel a replay value in this album. There's just nothing to listen to again. I don't feel like I'm obligated or I desire to listen to this album because it's just so random. I just feel like it's really random. Like he's putting on a show other than trying to tell us a story. So yeah. Um, Number two is Damn. The reason I put Damn here, Damn is his most recent album. I put Damn at number two um, because it couldn't be number one, because another album is number one for me. Damn is number two because it represents Kendrick Lamar at his finest, at the peak of his career right now. Kendrick Lamar in 2017 is the epitome of rap music. He's at the top of his game. People want to be Kendrick Lamar. People want to have his fan base, and I'm pretty sure if any rapper had the chance, they would do anything to get Kendrick Lamar's fan base. And um, I think I feel like this was also a good album because it just felt like a natural progression in terms of his career. It felt like um, after the success of To Pimp a Butterfly, people didn't really know what to expect. People didn't really know what they wanted of Kendrick Lamar afterwards. He released bangers on Good Kid, Mad City. This was jazz instrumentation on To Pimp a Butterfly. What comes next? What? No, I'm okay. He released bangers on Good Kid, Mad City, and he released jazz instrumentation on To Pimp a Butterfly. And people were just wondering what comes next. What are we getting with that next? And like Kendrick Lamar said in his interview, where he ranked his own albums, he ranked Damn as his number one album. The main reason that he stated being was that he felt like he had the most freedom to do whatever he wanted with this album, and he felt like he could take the ideas that he had with Section 80, Good Kid, Mad City, and To Pimp a Butterfly, and compile them in one album that he felt like was the strongest because he had those ideas from those past albums. So yeah, that's great for him. I also really feel like this is his most flowy album in terms of how the songs on the whole album, how the whole album flows in terms of the songs. So I think like how this album is a natural progression in his career. The songs feel so natural when listening to them all the way through. It just feels natural to listen to. With it starts off with that that like sort of skit that we get about how he finds a blind lady and like he sees that she's looking for something, and I'm pretty sure there's like deeper meanings to that, but I don't really want to get into that. You can look into that yourself. But I feel like that's another big thing, skits, which we see a lot of in Good Kid, Mad City. Skits always add to what he has to say on an album. Skits are like, I feel like, forever important to Kendrick Lamar, and although we don't see a lot of it on Damn, I think it was a good move to put the one and only skit at the beginning of the album, because it just it serves as the perfect introduction to a natural progression, a different sound for Kendrick Lamar in 2017 compared to his 2015 counterpart or Good Kid, M.a.a.d City. So, yeah. Also, because we have Element on this album, and I fucking love Element. It's mwah, mwah, mwah. Perfect. 10 out of 10. Number 1. Kendrick Lamar's number 1 album. Good Kid, M.a.a.d City. This is my favorite album by Kendrick Lamar. Just because it's my favorite album. Like, have you listened to this thing? Okay, I feel like Good Kid, M.a.a.d City was the perfect album. Well, I didn't listen to it upon its initial release because hip hop was just not the type of music that I was into when it released. But that's something I kind of don't regret because now I feel like if I would have listened to it upon its initial release when everybody else was like downloading it, buying it, taking it off the shelves and stuff, and like putting it on their phones, on their iPods, on their computers, and listening to it, I feel like it just would have been another one of those like, oh hey, like this guy released an album, we're gonna go listen to it too because I want to be cool, you know. I actually listened to this years later of its release, and I think that was such a good move on my part because it gave me the time to enjoy the album for what it was instead of for the hype that it was given by everybody else. And that's not to say the hype was bad because this album is literally perfect for me. I think this album is I think this is Kendrick Lamar at his finest. This is like, if there was a greatest hits album by Kendrick Lamar, might as well just put this whole album on there because this is the epitome of Kendrick Lamar. I think the biggest thing about what makes Good Kid, M.a.a.d City my favorite album is the story that it tells about how he's a teenager growing up in Compton, and he's going on these adventures late at night with his friends in his mom's van, and he's trying to like go out and have sex with this girl that he just met, and like he gets in trouble with other gang members that he doesn't like, and he ends up like one of his friends, I'm not sure who it is, ends up getting shot and killed, but he ends up meeting this lady who tells him that he needs Jesus and stuff, and it's just this whole story that is told throughout the whole album, and I feel like the inclusion of the skits, like I said earlier, the inclusion of the skits is a big deal because it progresses the story further than what the songs are trying to say themselves. I also love, apart from what the skits say, by adding to the story, I also love how you feel like you're actually in Kendrick Lamar's mom's van, because like when you're listening to it, everything is around you, and you're hearing the gunshots going on, you're hearing them smoking weed, you're hearing them talking to each other, and you can hear it going on all around you. You just feel like you're in the car with them. And I love how Kendrick Lamar includes these recordings into the album because it adds so much to the enjoyment of the listener and so much of the story that it feels like it just feels like natural. It feels flowy. Like the story is being told, and you just want to listen to it. You want to indulge yourself. You want to continue going, following Kendrick Lamar on his adventures. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing about this album is the story that it's telling, and the skits that are included that tell us about 17-year-old Kendrick Lamar, K. Dot, K. Dot that they called him at the when he was younger. And yeah, just this is I feel like this is also really relatable because of the stories that he tells at a 17-year-old as a 17-year-old, and me being 17, although his stories are kind of far-fetched in terms of like a normal 17-year-old, this is what Compton is like for a normal 17-year-old who is living in Compton. And I feel like whenever someone hears about Compton, it's like, oh my god, this is like a completely different planet. This is like in a different country. Like knowing, they think that, but they know that it's in the United States. They know that it's in California, and it makes you wonder like, how is this happening in California? But that just goes to show that this is everyday life for Kendrick. This is what's going on every day. And I think that's also a way to let the listener realize that maybe some things need to change, some things need to like happen, or in order to make things better for the people in Compton, you know. So yeah, I feel because of the story that's being told and the very close relationship that Kendrick Lamar um, very easily um, ends up having with the listener is what makes this album the best album by Kendrick Lamar. So yeah, because of that, there's amazing replay value. I constantly come back to this album um, more than any other album by Kendrick Lamar, and I feel like this is the epitome of Kendrick Lamar. So yeah. Um, but yeah, that's all I really have to say about Kendrick Lamar and his albums. That's my list of how I rank them. Yeah, I'm not really sure if any of you are going to watch this, but if you do and you liked it, please leave a like and comment. Comment your own list and maybe some reasons as to why uh, you rank them that way. And yeah, um, that's all I have to say. Thanks, guys, for watching.